Hello and welcome back to our tutorial on culturally appropriate pedagogy. In this second part, we'll discuss the degree of appropriateness of some Western approaches to language teaching and learning, and what considerations we should take when applying such approaches in our classrooms. The first content of our discussion is cooperative learning. At this point of time, I am talking about cooperative or collaborative learning in general, not as a teaching methodology described in academic and systematic research from the West. As Vietnamese people, we are all familiar with cooperative learning. Just think about your childhood and student life. Don't tell me that you never học nhóm with your classmates. Yes, it has been existing for a long time now. Cooperative learning is actually a learning model which started thousands of years ago from the earliest schools of Confucian teaching. People presented some form of tuition fee and enrolled as either long or short-term students. They would either come daily to the master's house or live there to form a learning community. These students organized their lives together with various collective activities under the master's guidance. They were taught to consider each other as brothers, and they were expected to help each other, to provide each other with mutual academic assistance and emotional support. This model passed on through generations and spread throughout East Asia to Japan, Korea, and Vietnam. Due to its long history, cooperative learning has been so popular that most East Asian students form study groups without any prior instruction or advice from their teachers, simply because they feel a need to do so. Many students form study groups with classmates to prepare for exams. In fact, studies have shown that informal peer groups for the purposes of study is a strategy that is more commonly used by Asian students than those from other cultures. In fact, cooperative learning in Vietnam and many other Asian countries has been based on a broad cultural patterns and the extensive social expectations that are typical of a collectivistic society. Cooperative learning in such cultures is embedded in everyday social life. The formation of học nhóm and đôi bạn cùng tiến considers not only learning ability but also distance between homes, a history of friendship, the family's relationships, and students' personalities, and so on. Meanwhile, cooperative learning approach described by famous researchers is based on rigid structures of goal achievement, individual responsibility, reward distribution, and so on within the school environment. So what is the Western-based cooperative learning methodology like? The application of this approach to learning is usually conducted within the school campus territory. The formation of the group depends on cognitive-based trust, which means trust is based on the fulfillment of specific roles and responsibility. In such group work approach, stronger democratic values support a participative leadership style in which power tends to be shared among group members rather than remaining in the hands of one or more leaders. Rather than appointing a formal leader, each group member is given a specific role to fulfill, such as checker, recorder, taskmaster, gatekeeper, reporter, or cheerleader. As a result, the accomplishment of learning tasks is rewarded based on equity, which means group members are rewarded for the proportion of work that they contributed. This reward mechanism requires clear assessment within the same group. The aforementioned characteristics of cooperative learning have been believed to work well in such a collectivist culture like Vietnam. However, many studies conducted in China and Vietnam have found out that the application of Western-based cooperative learning in these cultures without careful adaptation will face potential mismatch in leadership, group harmonization, teachers' role in disseminating knowledge, institutional limitations, and preference for cooperative learning versus readiness to operate it. Firstly, while Western-based cooperative learning approach prefers shared leadership and explicit leader nomination, in Vietnamese classrooms, a main leader is essential because a group without a leader is like a snake without a head. However, if a leader is not formally identified, the students will recognize informal leaders who will emerge during the task activity. These informal leaders are identified by the group members as active leaders because a real leader should be formally appointed as a result of teacher direction. In the meantime, the absence of a formal leader does not seem problematic in Vietnamese classrooms because having a leader is so important that the leader will be identified even without teachers' instruction. A leader is beneficial, especially those who can maintain harmonious and considerate relationships between the group. However, it is important to note that shared leadership is also beneficial for Vietnamese students, as each individual has an assigned role to fulfill. As a result, much adjustment is needed when cooperative learning operates in a Vietnamese context. In terms of trust and group identity, studies on cooperative learning in some Vietnamese classrooms of English also show that most students prefer friendship grouping and believe that this enables them to benefit from the closeness that already existed among group members. Grouping with close friends or within an existing friend circle makes it easier for students to be straightforward and direct and to ask for help without embarrassment. The unity of a group formed on the basis of friendship tends to be able to trigger a powerful sense of cognitive confidence and satisfaction, even in a group consisting mainly of low achievers. On the other hand, friendship groupings also imply the danger that the focus of the group may be on social interaction rather than the task. Moreover, friendship groups consisting only of low achievers might gradually lose motivation if they begin to fall behind their peers. Therefore, it may be helpful for teachers to seek to develop a sense of unity among students who are not already close friends, gradually creating an environment beneficial for cooperative learning. Furthermore, it is advisable to group members of different academic abilities. The combination of social relation and various academic abilities in grouping is likely to help Vietnamese students work better in groups, since it takes advantage of both relevant cultural values and traditional cooperative learning practices. Regarding group harmony, studies on cooperative learning in Vietnamese classrooms show that lack of self-confidence, shyness, and the fear of a wrong answer are not likely to be perceived as having strong influence on cooperative learning. The stereotypical passiveness among Vietnamese students is seen as a sign of respecting group harmony and saving face. Group members are normally not discouraged from speaking out, questioning, criticizing, reflecting, or acting independently. They are not forced to organize their ideas in a Western logic and linear manner. Many Vietnamese proverbs express this moral lesson, such as một điều nhịn, chín điều lành, or lời nói chẳng mất tiền mua, lựa lời mà nói cho vừa lòng nhau. While a harmonious atmosphere will certainly nurture a smooth working pace, it can also be a cover for hidden disagreement and distrust. A harmonious working environment is not necessarily a safe working environment for fear of losing face. Therefore, it is necessary to create such an environment where students can discuss conflict cooperatively and know that their faith will be protected. Although cooperative learning is a student-centered approach, it is important to discuss the role of the teacher in spreading knowledge. Traditionally, in Vietnamese classrooms, the teachers are expected to have all the right answers, and the main job of students is to listen and take notes. Meanwhile, Western-based cooperative learning expects students to develop knowledge by themselves, and the role of the teacher is to create situations or experiences that present them with new ideas to analyze. Therefore, the Vietnamese teachers of foreign languages have to face the role dilemma of whether to be an expert of knowledge or a facilitator of knowledge in cooperative learning. The application of Western cooperative learning in Vietnam also faces many institutional limitations. First of all, an inflexible, fixed seating arrangement prevents a diverse grouping strategy, because students will always be placed together in the same team across all study subjects. Therefore, a grouping strategy that takes into account learning ability, gender, or intimacy may not be easy. Secondly, time restriction tends to prevent teachers from exploring the benefits of cooperative learning. Thirdly, without adequate training for teachers to meet the demand of modern curriculum and without careful research on pedagogic adjustment, the hasty introduction of cooperative learning into the Vietnamese context has caused internal inefficiency in education. In fact, a great number of Vietnamese learners like group learning activities. However, this preference does not necessarily imply the readiness to apply them. The culture of learning in Vietnamese classrooms, the role dilemma faced by the teachers, and the limitations in our school system confirm that the preference for cooperative learning does not mean that teachers, students, and all stakeholders are ready to commit and deeply understand what it means and what it takes to effectively get cooperative learning in action. So, you may have experienced all the discussed issues with Western-based cooperative learning. After this mini lecture, I believe that you can reflect very well on your teaching practice and agree with me that culture and culture of learning play a vital role in application of any teaching and learning strategy. Even though cooperative learning in general is not unfamiliar with Vietnamese students, the introduction of Western-based cooperative learning into our classroom still remains controversial and needs a lot of careful research and adjustment. And I think it's time to have a short break. Stay tuned and I'll see you again in the next part of this lesson.